Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UEFA Euro 2020 preview series of videos. This is Group B. I'm joined by my good friend Karam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. Thank you, Az. I look forward to the Euro 2020 fantasy game. Hopefully, it's going to be much better than the FPL season. I'm sure it will be.
We don't
But
talk about that anymore. That
no,
is that
no.
is done.
What is FPL? What is FPL
Yeah,
about? I'm not sure.
I
I
don't
play
know.
Elite Syrian, Bundesliga, Euro Fantasy, but that's all I know.
So what? You had a bit of a disappointing end, did you, to the FPL season?
Yeah, it's been a disappointing season, but I think the highlight of it was the last day when I captained Aguero. So
Oh, I mean,
I
yeah.
can't be happier than this.
I mean that is pretty nice. Yeah, I'm so yeah, I mean the question I'm asking kind of the people I'm getting on these is how into Euro fantasy are you looking to get? Because some people are
Serious.
serious, yeah, because some people kind of aren't really
Yeah.
that interested in it, taking a bit of a
Mm.
break. Others are kind of, dipping their toes in the water a little bit. Others are just full on, like research is out, stats packs, everything. You're into it, are you?
Yeah, I am. It's a good and a bad thing at the same time. I can't get into a game and play it like, okay, I'm gonna have just fun. I'm not gonna take care of it. I'm a competitive person, so if I get into something, then I have to play it serious. That's my nature.
Have
Um,
you played them before?
and
Any of the international tournaments?
Mm, yeah, I've played the World Cup 2018 one. I played other fantasy games, Bundesliga, Elite Serie, and so on. I think this is the second one, then the second national tournament after the World Cup.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've had a little experience on some kind of games. I played also the African nations in
Oh wow.
2019. That was,
Okay, you are an
yeah.
addict. Yeah.
Addiction. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So hello to everyone in the chat. We've got well, I mean, when we said we're doing this at 10 a.m., Karen's first response was, "Is anyone going to listen to this?" And yeah, we've got 33 people in the chat. So the really committed ones. Lynn's in the
amazing.
chat. Paula's in the chat. Adamya is in the chat. So thank you for joining us so early. So let's talk Group B then.
Yeah,
Interesting group, right? I mean, first thoughts on looking at the table.
yeah. I think it's gonna be an interesting group in terms of but who's gonna play for the second place. I think
Mm,
Belgium is very strong to win the group, if not, and I expect them to go far in this tournament. So I think they have the ability to finish the group first. Whether it's gonna be 7 points or 9 points, I think Denmark might be the team who can put a good fight. Um, and the second place will be pretty much between, in my opinion, I think Denmark and Russia.
mm.
I think Russia can be the underdogs in this tournament. They have the ability to do something to surprise some teams. So they have some interesting picks in it for fantasy as well. And Denmark as well, they have a decent record recently,
Mm.
especially in defense. We will touch on
Yeah.
that. Um, I think it's gonna be Belgium, Denmark, and then Russia, and then
Interesting.
Finland in
Yeah,
that order.
interesting. I mean,
I think. Mm,
I was going to say, I mean, Belgium are just like, we're looking at players to build in for our fantasy teams, looking at groups. A lot of the talk is around, the group stages being the really the areas to target, because that's when, weaker teams are
mm,
being played. It's, teams are going to go all out to score goals. Not going to get any nervy
yeah.
games where things. I mean, Belgium to me just look absolutely primed to smash this group. I can't see any three of these teams being that much of a threat. And I think you're completely right. It's going to be a battle for second place.
Yeah, indeed. And one thing I've noticed as well that the teams have the ability to score goals. So personally, when it comes to fantasy, I don't expect to see many clean sheets in this group. Maybe for the teams who are playing Finland because they have
Mm.
some issues in attack and playing the odds. They have the highest chance to get a clean sheet against Finland, but Finland can also give us a surprise like Iceland did in the World Cup in
Mm.
the last World Cup, for example. So yeah, anything can happen, but yeah, I see a lot of goals in this
Yeah, me
group.
too. Yeah, I mean the big question mark is around De Bruyne for
Yeah.
Belgium. I know he's obviously very popular in the game, high ownership, all this kind of stuff. I was doing a pod for fan team last night. Ben Dinnery was on it, the injuries
Mm,
guy, and he says that he would expect De Bruyne to miss the whole group stage. So he's expecting him to be out for around a month with the orbital fracture and all of that. And he'd be surprised if he was risked in the group stage. He says there's a chance he could with surgery, with a face mask, all this stuff, but it's the kind of injury that needs time. So I think Belgium are lucky that they've got a group like this, because obviously losing him is a massive blow, but they should easily still have enough to get through this group and win it pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and from a fantasy perspective, it opens the doors to some couple of options that I've looked at, and we can chat about them. But indeed, I think that some of the quotes from Roberto Martinez is that De Bruyne is more likely to miss at least the first game. As you said, it might be the whole group, but they are assessing it. Luckily, he doesn't need a surgery, so he might feature later stage of the tournament.
Do they need him? I guess is the question. Do they really need to play him in any of these three games? Save him maybe for the when the games get tougher. I guess then he hasn't got much kind of playing time under his belt, but
yeah,
I don't think it will take him long to get up to speed. So yeah, we'll see. Right, so let's have a look at some qualifying stats. So I mean, Belgium had the best record that I can see from any team. I mean, they played 10-1-10. Italy had the same, but Belgium scored more goals. So 40 goals for, 3 goals against, 7 out of 10 clean sheets. Doesn't really get much better than that. Then it's kind of like what we said, battle for second place, Denmark, Finland and Russia. I mean, Denmark played 8, won 4, drew 4, unbeaten in qualifying, which is interesting. 23 goals for, only 6 goals against as well. So, like you said, decent defensive record there, 4 clean sheets out of 8. Finland played 10, won 6, lost 4. So kind of an all or nothing team, really. No draws there. 16 goals for, 10 goals against. The games they won, they kept clean sheets in all of them. So, which is interesting, but it kind of indicates that out of this group, they did kind of suffer the most losses. And then Russia played 10, won 8, and they lost 2. And interestingly, they're in the same group as Belgium, in the same qualifying group. So the only 2 games they lost were to Belgium. So, I mean, looking at this, I mean, I do think Russia's record is decent. I mean, 7 clean sheets, only 8 goals conceded in qualifying, and the majority of those were to the kind of probably the best team one of the top 3 teams in the tournament. So, I actually quite like Russia going into this tournament. I think, like you say, it's going to be between them and Denmark for that second spot. I think I'm leaning towards Russia, actually. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's going to be very close between these 2 teams. And I actually think it's going to be much closer than people might think, who might edge Denmark. I don't think it's that clear or obvious. And they can make a surprise against. I don't think they will make a surprise against Belgium. I think they will give them a hard game, but I think Belgium will edge it. And I think the head-to-head against Denmark will be the decisive one. They haven't been playing good last night in one of the friendly games. Understandably, he might use a lot of subs and try and test some different things. But as you see in the records, especially in defense, both Denmark and Russia have decent defensive records. So one way you look at this, you think it's going to be a cagey game. This game in particular, I think that overall the group will have a lot of goals, but I'm not sure that either Denmark or Russia will go for it when they face each other. I think they will play it a bit tight and try to make a 1-0 or a draw for the team who will be enough to get the draw. So it depends on how the first. I think they're playing match day 3 or 2. I'm not sure which match day they play each other, but it depends on the previous results. Then we can anticipate how the games will go.
Denmark,
it's
Russia,
3. Yeah, it can't get better than that. Huh?
I know.
So after 2 days, 2 match days, things will be clearer who's closer to edge it. So it's gonna be an exciting one.
It is, yeah. And I mean, match day 3. I mean, I did a video talking about the kind of rules of the Uefa game and this kind of when to play the chips and when to play the limitless chip, and people have got different ideas around that. To me, that match day 3 just worries me a little bit, because you've got matches like that which I think are going to be really tight, and especially when you've got this third place thing where so many teams can get through on that. I just think teams are going to be more likely to go for it in the first two match days, right? So first one, we've got essentially a wild card anyway. You pick whoever you want. Is then going to be match week 2 that I'm going to be looking to play the limitless chip, try and hit some big scores, hopefully, and then in 3, I think it's going to be a bit more of a cagey affair. Could be completely wrong, could be loads of big scores in it, especially if some of the lower ranked teams are already knocked out and nothing to play for, and teams like Belgium can just relax and they're playing Finland, so they can go crazy. But that's kind of what I'm looking to do. Are you adopting a similar strategy to that, or something a bit different?
Yeah, probably. I'm probably gonna play the limitless in match day 2. So the team I'm building is focusing on 1 and 3 basically.
Yeah. Same.
And match day 3 can go either way. Indeed, I can see teams who are knocked out anyway just play their reserves to give a chance and a national experience, and they might get conceded 4 or 5 goals. But at the same time, some teams like Belgium, if they see I think Belgium will need to win the group more than just qualifying. Just to make sure they get the best possible route to the finals. So even if they get 6 points in the first game, say Denmark has 6 points as well, I don't think it's a possible thing, but I think they need to make sure they get 7 points or 9 points. So I still think Belgium in match day 3 will still go for it to at least a win.
I think if Belgium don't win this group, I think it would be the biggest shock of the group stages. There's very few groups that I'm looking at and thinking there is. I think it's probably only this group and England's group where I think England should win that group comfortably. We'll talk about Group D in another video, but I can't see any way in which England don't win that. And it's the same for this one. Every other group, I'm looking at Group E, like Poland and Spain. I think that could be tighter than it kind of maybe indicates. I think people are thinking Spain are going to run away with it, but I think Poland have actually got quite a good team. I mean, Group A, talked about yesterday, Italy looked good, but I wouldn't back against Turkey to be a dark horse in that. If Wales have all their players fit, yeah. So this is the one. I'm just kind of trying to drum it in, because I really do think if you're building a team, for this UEFA game, then I think Belgium have to be a team to target.
Yeah,
definitely. And especially because if you are using Limitless in game week 2, then in game week 3 you get your Belgian players back in for that Finland match. So I think starting with at least 2 Belgian players is pretty important. All right, let's talk about some scores. So we're coming straight on to Belgium. So some pretty highly owned players. Can't even speak. It's too early in the squad. So I think Lukaku's one of, if not the most highly owned player in the game. I mean, fair enough. I think he's probably going to win the Golden Boot. Yeah, I think it has to be. I think you're just running too much of a risk if you don't have him, for this group, and given his form coming into the tournament. De Bruyne is up there as well, though, 41%. Would you start with him? I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. No, based on the recent news that we hear about De Bruyne's injury from the Champions League final, there were some quotes from the manager that he might be a major doubt for the first game of the tournament. There's a little chance he missed the whole group. I'm saying based on some quotes, so it's not that is official. That's a disclaimer, but just follow the news closer to the deadline. I wouldn't start with KDB. No, I think when I built my team when the game launched, KDB was pretty much my first pick. For obvious reasons, he's a Man City player. He's a very good player, and I think 10.5 for this game is really decent price for De Bruyne. His role is so important for Belgium. He contributes a lot in goals and assists. In the last 12 appearances with the national team, he has 17 goals involvement, so that's decent, of course. But the injury hits back, and it's a lot of money that you can really invest. I had a much better team when I took him out following the recent news. So whether I would start with KDB, I'm not so sure. But I think Lukaku, he is the man. And I don't think that we've seen Lukaku with Hazard, Eden Hazard, on the pitch for some time. But recently, Lukaku has been on penalties. We know that for Belgium, Hazard is the captain and on penalties. But I'm not sure if that's a permanent move that Lukaku is going to take them, especially when Eden Hazard is on the pitch. So we need to see both of them. Hopefully, we need to see that in the friendly and see if they did a penalty and who's taking. But yeah, golden boot potential on penalties for Lukaku makes him an auto pick, an easy pick for me.
Yeah, he's my pick for the golden boot. I think golden boots are won in the group stages, and we saw it with Kane in the World Cup. Lots of penalties he got, and they definitely boost the appeal of someone. So if Lukaku is on penalties as well, then I mean I think he'd probably win the golden boot without them. If he has them as well, then I think he's an almost dead cert. You mentioned Eden Hazard there. So Hazard's 10 million in the game, so 0.5 less than De Bruyne, which is, I'd expect a bigger gap between them given how poor a season Hazard's had. De Bruyne has not quite hit the heights that he has done in previous years, but he's still been influential when he's played. Hazard's been completely anonymous for Real Madrid. 4% ownership though. Could be a tournament in which he kind of comes back into it and has a point to prove. Tempted at all by Hazard?
Potentially I am. The thing about this type of games, the fantasy games, it's only 7 match days. So in terms of a strategy, you need something really quick. It's really different from FPL or any league fantasy game you play. So if you need for someone to hit hard and get a lot of points in one match day where you get a huge advantage, and I think Eden Hazard is one of those players, at 10 million, 4% on, he could be a bargain actually. We haven't seen a lot from him in Real Madrid since he moved to Real Madrid, but because of a lot of injuries. So I'm still not sure how fit he is for this tournament. I know he's been playing and building up his fitness towards the end of the season with Real Madrid, but is he ready to play every minute in this tournament? We need to see that in the friendly matches. I am tempted by him potentially, and I think when it comes to the attack, Belgium have deployed the 3-4-2-1 recently in the last few matches and the World Cup qualifiers, with Lukaku up front, De Bruyne and Dries Mertens, who is another option might be considered, and that's largely because Eden Hazard was injured and was not fully fit to play. With De Bruyne probably out, would that be Mertens, Hazard, Mertens, Trossard, who is another pick I really like, 6.5. And as a Brighton fan, you will appreciate a lot, right? So
I will, yeah. I think I can't see him getting too many minutes. I mean, they got Torgan Hazard there, the other lesser known Hazard, he's actually got quite a poor record for Belgium when he does play. I mean, I was surprised to see him at 0% ownership though, at 8 million, because he should play, I think, significant minutes for them. The other player there I like is Dooku.
Do you mean Torgan Hazard?
Yes.
Okay. I think when watching Bundesliga fantasy, he hasn't played a lot for Borussia Dortmund, and when he did, he has been playing on the left wing back. So he is actually taking a really, I wouldn't say defensive role, but he's really not getting too much into the goal threat, and he's an option I would consider as an avoid, to be honest. I think the left wing back would be Hazard or I don't know who they have at the moment, but I will check it in a second. I think Shadley has been playing left wing back as well. So that spot is pretty much one of the midfielders, and it's kind of a waste, to be honest. So I wouldn't personally go for Torgan Hazard because I don't think he will play somewhere in the central role. The other player I would consider is Dennis Pratt. He gets a lot of minutes with Belgium, especially in the last few matches with the national team, and he has the potential to offer a lot. I think he's 6.5 in this game. So when it comes to attack,
he's a real differential. I mean, he's 0% ownership as well. I mean, a lot of
here you go.
This is the thing. This is the thing that I like about these international tournaments. Like a lot of players here
Yeah.
you know, are good players who are all kind of, you know, Eden Hazard at less than 5% ownership, you know, has real potential there. I mean, someone like Christian Benteke could come into the reckoning if, you know, Lukaku gets an injury or something like that. How many people, you know, being able to jump on players, you know, like that. I mean, and then so I mentioned Jeremy Doku a second ago. So when I asked Belgian fans who they thought their kind of style was going to be, a lot of them that I spoke to said they think this is going to be where we see Jeremy Doku coming out, and he's a player I know only from Football Manager. I bought him on for Football Manager. I was playing as Leeds. I bought
Ah,
Jeremy Doku in, and he's all I know about him is that he is rapid,
wow.
absolutely rapid. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he can kind of make the name for himself that some people are expecting. Trossard is a forward on this game, which I think is something that massively. The forward spots are just so precious for us
Yeah.
in this, and yeah, Trossard just isn't quite there. So just one area of Belgium we haven't touched on is the defence.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a worry from the people I've spoken to about Belgium. They've got quite an old, slow defence. I mean, they conceded the joint least goals in qualifying, but there is definitely a sense that teams can get at them with a bit of pace. Luckily, I can't see any pace in Group B to trouble them at all. So I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be an issue for the group stages. But you know, when they start playing against the likes of Mbappe and other teams, I think maybe they might come a bit unstuck. Are you starting with any Belgian defenders? Courtois there, 27% ownership. Set and forget.
No, no, not really. When I bet my draft, I put in Castagna at 5.5 million. But then after a bit of a research, I found out that Thomas Meunier was the one who is getting that spot, the right wing back for Belgium. But that was last March when they last time played the qualifiers. I think Castagna got the middle game, so they played 3 games, and Castagna started the second one because it was 3 days in between. But just to be clear, that Meunier has lost his place pretty much when playing with Borussia Dortmund due to injuries, and Mori has nailed that place, the right back for Borussia Dortmund. So it might be interesting to see with the friendly matches who is the favorite pick for Roberto Martinez, because it's not obvious in that spot. Castagna had a good run with Leicester in 2021. Meunier had a bit of a decline, but he was the favorite pick over Castagna. So
And there's similar ownership in this game. So 9% for Meunier and 7%
yeah,
for Castagna. So
yeah,
someone's
it's
going to be
absolutely
disappointed.
50-50. I think it's going to be 50-50 between these two picks. And when it comes to 50-50 in a 7-match day tournament, I'm not going to go there. When it comes to the left wing back, it's mostly between Shadley and Torgan Hazard. And I think both are midfielders, so that's a killer. When it comes to the center backs, though, I might be tempted by Denayer. He's 4.5, but as far as I am concerned, he's not a directly first choice. I think Vermaelen, Vertonghen, and Alderweireld are the 3 main options. Denayer came in after the Vermaelen injury last March, so he could be an option if we see that he's getting that spot. 4.5 into the Belgium defense. I think that's a decent value, especially that they are not really popular with getting attacking returns. I don't think they offer a lot of attacking threats. And what are their prices? 5.5.
Yeah.
I think there are better options with similar also with clean sheets and more upsides, if that makes sense. Courtois, I wouldn't touch. 6 million is too much. I don't think he will get a lot of saves. He might get 1 or 2 clean sheets, but I think with options at 5 million, 4.5, you touched on the Turkish goalkeeper yesterday. I'm sure you will touch on more, especially in Group C and D. So you might see options that will offer the same value. So Courtois is a no for me, but I can see some clean sheets, but not much.
Obi Evans in the chat is not a fan of Meunier. He describes him as a disgrace. Says he watches almost every game in the Bundesliga. So, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see. I do really rate Castagna. I think he's had such a good season for Leicester, and if he can lock down that spot, he could be one of the players of the tournament, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like Denayer. I think 4.5. If you're getting a Belgian defender who starts, 4.5, absolute bargain. I'm a little bit tempted by Courtois. I just pair him with the Turkish goalkeeper, because obviously you can play the Turkish goalkeeper. If he doesn't get the assist, Italy's a tough game. Sub him out for Courtois, but I mean, it is a lot of money for goalkeepers. But Yeah, I think given that Turkey and Belgium have the best defensive records in qualifying out of all the teams in the whole thing, that
Yeah.
kind of does seem nice. But yeah, right. Let's move on from Belgium. We spent ages on Belgium, but I think
Yes.
that's probably for the best.
Mm.
Okay, so let's move on to Denmark. So yeah, Denmark are a interesting team. I mean, they've got two players here who have got over sort of 20% ownership. I don't even want to try and pronounce the first one. I know that I'm just. Do you want to have a go?
Yeah, let's see. What screen do you have? Is it defenders? Is it
Yeah,
let's see.
yeah.
Kiar, I think.
Oh
Kiar.
God,
Um,
embarrassing. This is honestly this is the biggest problem I'm having with these streams. Is I mean we've got Russia coming up in a minute. That's going to be fun.
we'll see. Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to the defense, I like the look of them, and I was a bit surprised that they are priced really cheap. They had three clean sheets in their first three World Cup qualifiers, and 80 clean sheets in their last 10 competitive matches, and that's very decent. So goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel is coming in at 5 million. I think he could be a decent option if you look for a maximum 5 million goalkeeper. Their match against Belgium, I expect a lot of shots. So he's a type of goalkeeper that can offer clean sheets in 2 maybe matches, and a lot of saves against Belgium, maybe 6 saves or so. So I do see that he is a good pick for that price bracket. Kiar is a 4.5 million. He's the captain, so I expect him to play every match. And with always a center back, so he can offer some goal threat when it comes to the set pieces. And we know that Christian Eriksen, we will come to that attack in a moment. He is the main man for this team. When it comes to the fullbacks, I've written down here that Poilisen at 4 million is playing the left back, could be an interesting option, but there is a clear first option is Joachim Males. I don't know if I pronounce him correctly. He's coming in at 4.5 million, and he's the first choice, I think. So we have 2 decent options at 4.5, and we are suckers for the fullbacks, right?
Yeah.
So personally, I'm going for Males. Or we do an S, right? It's a Male. I don't know. That's the guy.
I'm impressed you even tried.
Let's
My plan is not
go.
to pick any players that I can't pronounce, and then I don't run into these problems. So
yeah,
okay.
We have
and 1% ownership as well for him.
We have Madeline in the group in the live chat saying that Simon Care is spelled care. So
okay.
Care.
Yeah,
simple.
that makes that
simple.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's what I need is like a kind of like, you know, fan of the national team just sat next to me, just whispering into my ear about how to pronounce these names. But yeah, apologies if I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm just absolutely useless with these. Yeah, I mean the thing with Denmark, I guess, is we're not expecting many surprises against Belgium, but I'd back them to beat Finland. And then it's just that game against Russia, which I think is really even. So if you're backing them to win that, they'll win that. If they do beat Russia, it'll be a tight game, I think. Yeah. It'll be a 1-0 or something like that. So I think the defence, given that I'd expect them to beat Finland, and you know I think they've got a chance against Russia, isn't a bad idea. So the likes of Schmeichel, Mel, as you said, could be gold. Attacking wise,
we have another pronunciation to Mel, which is Meli. So could be Meli. So let's try Meli and Care.
Meli and Care. Okay.
Yeah.
We're putting a lot of trust in you, Madeline.
Yeah.
So attacking wise, easier to pronounce, which is good. Christian Eriksen. I mean, 3% ownership for Christian Eriksen is really, really low. Because I mean, I'm looking at midfielders who can make a difference in this group and across the tournament, and there's few that have as much of an influence on their team as Eriksen. I mean, he's like kind of the De Bruyne of Belgium, isn't he? He's going to be involved in everything good that Denmark do. I was really surprised to see him at 3%. I thought he'd be much higher than that. You know, he'd been playing for Inter. They just won the league. He's coming into good form. The group, apart from Belgium, they should do okay in it. We're not expecting loads of goals for Denmark, but I like Eriksen. Eriksen's in my team at the moment.
Well, he is as well in mine. And I think Ericsson didn't have the best season with Inter. As far as I remember, I think in the 20 plus appearances, he had only 4 goals and 0 assists. And that might be the reason why people are moving away from Christian Eriksen. But he had really better records with the national team than the club. He is on penalties, on set pieces, on corners, and he is playing the number 10 behind the striker, which perfectly suits him. We've seen his days with Harry Kane back at the Spurs. It's perfectly the same formation and type of role he likes to play in. And I think in 9 million, he is the perfect buy.
Yeah.
And I expect this percentage to be higher close to the deadline. 3% is really, really
especially
low.
if De Bruyne goes into it a doubt as well, because it'll be a fairly easy move down to him. You look. The thing is, with all these fantasy games, the same as the Premier League, you're always looking for this kind of talisman player. You know, who's involved in everything, who's on set pieces, all of this kind of stuff. Ericsson to me is that if Denmark are going to progress, and I think they've got a chance, he's going to be absolutely vital. So yeah, I like him. There's one other player on this list that we haven't mentioned yet, but I have a little thing on him in a bit, so I won't mention him just now. So if you're a Danish supporter, you're thinking, why haven't you mentioned? Then just wait, and it will come up in a bit. But for now, we're going to move on to Finland.
Can we have another minute on Denmark, because there is a pick that there is a pick that I really like, and he's a very decent differential.
It better not be the one I'm going to mention in a minute, though.
Is it Wendt?
Oh, of course it is. You ruined it now. You see.
Sorry, man.
I was building the suspense. No, it's all right.
No,
I can put my graphic up there. There he is. We'll come to him right now. So go on.
Okay.
Talk to me about wind. Talk to me about wind. That's a strange comment. All right. So just before you give me some great stats on him, I have been speaking to fans. I've got a friend in Denmark as well, and again, it's really interesting to hear from fans of the national teams, because I'd never heard of him. You know, he plays in the Danish league. He's a young guy, up and coming striker, but there is real excitement, real buzz about this guy. So 11 goals in 18 appearances, 5 assists in the league. You know, it's not. I mean, it's decent, but you know, it's hard to judge on the kind of Danish league, and the stats don't really paint the picture of just how much excitement there is around wind, which is a strange comment. Again, go on, talk to me. Why do you like him? Do you think he could be one of the breakthrough stars of the tournament?
He could be. I don't know much more about him than the numbers you've mentioned, but in the last few national matches for Denmark, he has been playing in the number 9. There is a competition in the attack in this team with Yusuf Poulsen and Martin Braithwaite, who are also can play in that role. But recently, Poulsen has been deployed in a little bit different role in Leipzig, which could be reflected in the Danish team. He's been playing on the wings a little bit, especially on the right side. So in the last
which isn't
matches,
what you want if you're going to pick a differential player, not out of position.
No, exactly. It's out of position backwards, sort of, because both the 3 players are classified as forwards. So in the last 3 matches, it was Christian Eriksen in number 10, Braithwaite on the left wing, Poulsen on the right wing, and Wendt was the attacker. And what is his price? 6 million. Just it's an easy buy. And he has been scoring for the national team. Not that he's been featuring and not doing anything. So I think that spot is his. I'm hoping that we don't see changes in the friendlies before the tournament, and for some reason Wendt loses the place. But do you think that he would be a nailed one for the Denmark? Can we see him playing and breaking the game potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about breaking the game. I think he's one I'm going to be keeping a close eye on as a football, fan, especially because given the kind of hype surrounding him. I think there is that risk of him playing out of position. There is that risk of him not playing at all. And he takes up one of the forward spots, which I really do think, especially in these group stages, I think you need to be going with three premium strikers. So if he was a mid playing out of position, I'd be quite tempted. The fact he's a forward, I'm probably not going to go there. But I really wanted to mention him because out of every team that I looked at, every supporter I spoke to, it kept coming back to Jonas Wind. So I've really got high hopes for him in this tournament. I think, you know,
Mhm.
we always get a star, like a breakthrough star, often like quite a young player. I think Phil Foden, this could be the tournament that I think he's already nearly there, but I think this
Mm.
could be the tournament that pushes him if Southgate gives him the minutes. Wind is looking. There's Premier League teams interested in him. I think West Ham are really kind of interested in signing him
Mhm.
as well. So he's going to be really, you know, motivated to have a good tournament. So
Mm.
one to look out for.
Yeah. One small note on this that they have another striker for the national team. It's Dolberg,
Yeah.
who has featured in the second game in last March. So I think that's part of the rotation. But I still believe that Win will be the first choice. But if things are not going very well for them, maybe in some matches, so we might see him coming off for
Yeah.
Dolberg or Paulsen
Yeah.
making move to the striker role. So for 6 million, you probably get what you pay for, maybe even more a bit, but you don't expect him to play 3 games, 90 minutes. That's
Yeah.
something I'm keeping in mind.
Yeah. No, good. Right, so Finland. I don't think
Yeah.
we're going to spend too much time on Finland. Apologies to any Finnish supporters out there. I just don't really like the look of your team very much. I think I know you've got some stats on the goalkeeper situation. A lot of people are flocking to the 4 million Heredicki. There's no way that's right, but went for it anyway. Goalkeeper. The only other player that I like the look of is Timu Pukki. 7% ownership off the back of a good season with Norwich, albeit in the Championship. He's probably the only one I'd consider in this team. Is there anyone else that jumps out to you? Do you like those two? You don't like the goalkeeper, right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, Thibaut Pukki is what was his contribution? I think over 50% of the goals for the national team. So
Yes.
if
Yeah, that's
Finland is
true.
gonna do anything, it's gonna be through him. So he's the man to get. Um, the goalkeeper situation is an interesting one because Hradicki is 34% on at the moment, if not higher, and he's coming in at 4 million. And I think the game has priced him because of what has been happening the last international round in March. Hradicki had an injury with Leverkusen, and he missed out on that international break. Euronen is the other goalkeeper coming at 4.5, has featured in those 3 games. And Hradicki, I think he featured the last part of the season with Leverkusen back again. The interesting one here is on 29th of May, Finland has played a friendly game. Now the fans say that this is not the main 11 by any means, but we've seen that Hradicki was on the bench and Euronen has featured in that game. So it's a bit of a worry for those owners that back Hradicki to start. So Euronen has started the last 4, which could indicate that he might be the new first choice for Finland. But a large portion of the Finnish fans in the Twitter community still believe that Hradicki will be the main one. They have a match on the 4th of June, I think, against Estonia. So it's going to be interesting. This is the last friendly for them before the Euros. It's going to be interesting. We surely need to see the main 11 as to prepare for the tournament. And I think I would base my decision based on who is coming in goal for that game. If there is any chance for Radicki to be the main guy, then he has to play this one. So keep an eye on this for the last friendly match against Finland. I don't think that Finland will keep any clean sheet, but it's 4 million. And what I like about him is basically you can sub him out if he doesn't. If you go for a Turkish goalkeeper first, then you will have to accept whatever comes in from him. But if he's the first goalkeeper in your team, then at 4 million, if you're not happy with 3-4 points, then you can sub him out and you don't lose much on his value. So he's an incredible value because he opens up a lot, at least 1 million for other spots in
I
your
think
outfield players.
him and the Turkish keeper would be the kind of the cheapest route into a sort of a fairly decent partnership. I think.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be mostly relying on Turkey to keep it tight, like they have been doing. But then you have got the option of switching out if he does concede, and you might get lucky. So if you're not a fan of going for like Courtois and then a 4.5 and you want to save some money, that would definitely be the partnership that I'd be looking to get, because I think he should start. I think unless there's you never really know, but I think he probably will.
I'm sure there is also another partnership in the Dutch national team. Both goalkeepers available coming at 4.5, but we don't know yet which one is the main one. But that's for another video for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3-4 options in goal, not too bad for this
I
tournament.
know. Yeah. The only other player I'll mention just briefly here is Kamara. You know, Rangers unbeaten season. He's going to be the one. He's the engine. He's the creator. He's the one that, you know, when, you know, Pukki's got Buendia for Norwich, and I think Kamara's going to be the one that sort of operates behind him and makes things happen. So 0% ownership for Kamara. If you do fancy a bit of a punt on Finland, kind of surprising everyone, then I think Pukki is the obvious choice, but Kamara could be a shout at 6.
Yeah. He has been a good one. I've owned him for a short period of time in the Scottish fantasy game. He's been good, and he might be a good option indeed. 6 million is a good price. I don't think that you will see many options below 6 million that can offer what Kamara can do if he comes good.
Exactly.
That's the
exactly. Okay, so the final squad, full of players that we're going to struggle to pronounce. What really struck me here, though, is that there's one player over 5% ownership, 2 players at 1% ownership, and everyone else in the Russian squad is 0% ownership. And I was surprised at that, because I don't think Russia are bad at all. I mean, we talked about their qualifying stats earlier. I mean, only 2 losses in qualifying, both to Belgium, one of the top-rated team. I mean, there's always been talk about them having a kind of like older squad and this, and I think, you know, that's still, I mean, Zirkov still knocking around. Yuri Zirkov, you know, I don't know how he's still playing football. He must be old, right? Unless he was at Chelsea like 10 years ago, wasn't he? I seem to remember him there. So, I mean, the fact he's still in the team, I think it's hard to know exactly which of these players to go for. But there is one standout to me, which is Juba, which I think is pronounced right. I mean, 1% ownership, 8.5 million. That seems a good price for him. Differential in a group in which I'm not expecting Russia to be. I'm expecting Russia to come second in that group over Denmark.
Interesting one.
So I really like the look of him, and I'm barely seeing many teams on Twitter or on Scout or anywhere, and I'm at 1% ownership here. I mean, he's a proper front man, right? He's tall, he's strong. Everything's going to go through him. He's going to be a menace from set pieces. He's going to be, you know, he's a real threat. I like him. I know I was talking about forward spots being you know, precious. He's the one that I think can disrupt it personally. What do you think?
I do like the look of Juba. He has been the main man, the captain, and on penalties, I believe, for the Russian team for some time already. In the last few matches in the World Cup qualifiers, he was top for biggest chances and shots in the box amongst any other forward in that period of time. So he's been playing really well for the national team recently. He is the main man indeed. He is at 8.5 million for himself might be a good price, but looking at the teams he's gonna play against, how many goals you gonna expect him to score against Belgium and against Denmark? Maybe one in both games. It's gonna be really about Finland game.
Well, this is what I mean. So with the limitless chip in 2, you know, I'm looking at teams to target, and Finland are probably one of them. Obviously, North Macedonia, Scotland, these guys. I can see myself ending up with Juba in my team for that game against Finland.
Definitely, yeah. He's in consideration for game for. I keep saying game week.
Oh, so do I.
In
match day, match week, game week. It's very confusing.
Indeed. So he's definitely in my consideration for match day too. And I like the look of him. 8.5 million on. Of course, this price will not be relevant in the limitless, right? Because you have no budget. So you're gonna pick the player. I want this player. So I really like the look of him for at least match day 2, indeed.
Yep. And I think other than that, there isn't really too many other players that I'd consider here. I mean, the 7% ownership player for Karam is because he's
Zakarian, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the only 4 million midfielders who
Yeah,
is likely to see minutes. So
yeah.
really, out of the whole first team squad, people are really not backing Russia in this tournament at all. So they could be a team to watch out for.
Yeah, it could be. I think that the story with Zakarian, I checked the lineup for Russia last night against Poland. He was not featuring in the 11 and neither on the bench. So I'm not sure if he's just being picked because he's 4 million, but I don't think he's gonna play a lot of games. I think the back line for them is almost set. I was looking for Mario Fernandez. He is the Brazilian Russian who doesn't speak Russian, but he plays for Russia. He's a decent right back or right wing
I
back
think
with
he's
a lot
injured.
of attacking threat, but I didn't see him in the game, so I'm not sure whether he's injured or not because he wasn't picked also in the squad. So do you have any idea if
No,
he's left out?
I was expecting to see him in because again he's been getting quite a bit of hype
Mm,
because of his threat. He
yeah,
missed a friendly last night. He's
yeah,
definitely got some injuries. Maybe they're waiting to make a late call on him. Have they if
mm,
they've announced the squad? It doesn't look like
no,
he's going to be ready. I mean, he might be one of those players who they take injured and hope to get him, for a bit later in the
maybe,
tournament. But
yeah.
yeah, if he's declared fit and in, then I think he's definitely the other player to consider along with Juba for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, he's definitely one. Although his replacement has scored last night is Karavev. I hope I pronounce him correctly.
That sounds good.
Um, he's he's a good right back as well. So it's not too bad if you have a look at him. Let me check what is his price actually, because I think he is
He's
4.5
four point
Karavev. He's
five. Yeah,
0% on. So I don't think it's really bad idea to have a draw with him if you fancy him, especially in match day 2 against
yeah,
Finland.
yeah.
So he can be a decent option. Some nice options in midfield if you fancy Russia that much like you do as. I think Golovin is the other guy that you can consider.
Mm,
He's 1% on a 7.5 million. He is the next most likely player after Juba to contribute in goals.
yeah.
And I like the look of him. He has a good track record with his national team. I can't remember the number of goals and assists he's been, but when I watched Russia in the World Cup, I was also there in Russia. A lot of fans were really liking the way Juba and Golovin playing. That was obviously 3 years ago. Not sure how is he doing now. So yeah, Golovin is someone we might consider. Do you know more about Cheryshev? Because he has his highs and lows, especially in the national team. He could be another option. He at 0%, 8 million.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah.
are on a limitless and you see how they perform the first match, depends on what lineup they play, then he can be an option.
I,
Although
I, I,
last night,
I actually think out of a lot of the teams in this tournament, I
yeah,
mean, there's a few teams which have kind of ownership stats like this, but I really do think it could be some of these 0% Russian midfielders,
mm,
Golovin, for example, Juba, who emerge as key
mm,
players that will be like, we'll kick ourselves. But they've got that Belgium game first, so that's a good chance to kind of assess them, see what see who you like, and
mm,
then I think on the limitless chip, I think we'll all be going. Well, I will definitely be getting at least one Russian attacker for that game.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cool. Right. So that's pretty much it. I'm just highlighting 4 players at the end of these streams that I like the look of from each team. No surprises that Lukaku, who we've talked about quite a lot, is my number 1 pick for Belgium. 30 goals and 44 appearances, into one Serie A. I don't think we need to keep selling him. I honestly think if you're starting without him in your team, you are running an absolutely massive risk. And you know me, I'm all about going against effective ownership and all this stuff. But in the group stage of Euros, I just think you want to be backing the most likely players to score goals, and he to me
Mm.
is the most likely player in the group stage to score the most goals, along with Harry Kane. So yeah, I would strongly advise that you consider keeping him in your team. We talked about Wind for Denmark. I was going to put Ericsson here, but he just seemed a bit boring. I think Wind is someone who, like I said, I'm more interested from a football side. I think Ericsson is the pick for your fantasy team, but Wind is one to definitely keep your eye on. I think he could emerge as a really strong
I
prospect.
think a triple up on Denmark is very viable option
Mm,
for game week for match day 1, with a defender Ericsson and Wind.
yeah,
Depends on if you fancy more clean sheets, then a double defense is not a bad idea with Care and Melee. But I think you have to go for at least two Denmark players by match day one. I
Yeah,
fancy them in
interesting.
this group.
Interesting. See, I'm the opposite. I'm thinking Russia. You think Denmark, I think Russia.
Yeah, it's gonna be very close, but I think Denmark will edge it.
Okay.
So let's see.
We will. Be interesting. No surprises for Finland. I've gone for Pukki. 26 goals in the
Yeah.
championship, 41 appearances, 4 assists. Really interested to know what he does in the Premier League again next year as well. Norwich are kind of becoming a bit of a yo-yo team. Will Buendia start? Will Pukki kind of, he was so strong at the start of last season. No, season before last. And then just completely dropped off along with Norwich's form. So he's key for Norwich. He's absolutely, as you said, scores over half the goals for Finland. Absolutely key. So yeah, if you're back in Finland, I think he's the one. It's a 7 million as well. I think he's decently priced too.
Yeah.
And then the last player is Juba. So 20 goals in 27 appearances. He scored a goal in the Champions League as well. He got 4 goals in his 1 appearance in the Russian Cup. And then, 26 goals and 34 overall. He's and 9 assists. He's a big centre forward. He makes things happen. He knocks down balls for players to shoot. I can't really remember Russia having a player quite like him with that kind of imposing, real threat in that striker spot up front. So they've got players that can run off him, but I really do think he's someone that we should be considering, as we said, especially in that limitless chip in Game 2.
Yeah.
And that is it. That is the Group B preview done. Thank you so much for joining me, Karam. It's been great talking to you again. It's been ages. I stopped doing the Scoutcast last year, and you did great on those. And yeah, it was a shame we didn't get to do more. Hopefully, we can do some more video stuff together next season as well. Might have some more Euro stuff to do with you. Now I know how keen you are in it all. So we'll make that happen too.
Cheers, as thank you very much for this. And we quite enjoyed this one. So hopefully we see each other in the next videos.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for watching. Just to plug again, head over to Fantasy Scout. We've got articles coming out all this week on all the different teams. They're kind of synced with these videos. I think I'm going to pull a little bit ahead because I'm doing kind of 2 a day. But we've got the full Group B articles out today. So Russia, Finland, Denmark, Belgium. They're really, really in-depth. Loads of stats, loads of information. So head over to Scout to check those out and keep your eye on the site as more updates come. But yeah, Karam, enjoy the tournament, and I will speak